Imagine walking through the heavy iron gates of a centuries-old estate in the heart of the European countryside, where the only sound is the rustling of ancient oak trees and the distant chime of a village bell. For most people, this is a vacation dream, but for Johnny Depp, it has become a necessary reality. After decades of living under the relentless glare of Hollywood flashbulbs and the chaotic noise of public scrutiny, he is quietly shifting his life toward a different kind of wealth. He isn't just buying property, he is building a sanctuary away from the industry that both crowned and haunted him. Why is one of the world's most recognizable faces choosing to invest his fortune in crumbling stones and hidden valleys instead of modern mansions? The answer lies in a deeply personal quest for peace that goes far beyond luxury. There is something most people don't understand about Johnny Depp, and it isn't about the courtroom drama or the tabloid headlines that once dominated every screen and front page. It is something far quieter and far more human. It is a story of a man who has spent the better part of 5 decades living inside a fishbowl and who has finally decided that the fishbowl itself needs to change. And the way he is changing it is not through press releases or carefully managed public appearances. It is through stone walls, olive groves, ancient cellars, and properties that carry centuries of memory within their foundations. Johnny Depp's interest in historical European estates is not a recent impulse. People close to him in various verified real estate and cultural preservation reports have noted over the years that Depp has always been drawn to spaces with soul, spaces that feel lived in, spaces where history breathes through the architecture. In a 2018 interview with the Times, Depp spoke candidly about his deep personal connection to France, particularly to the village of Plan de la Tour in the Var region where he had owned a sprawling compound for years. He described the experience of being there as something that allowed him to simply exist without performance. That phrase is important. Without performance. Because for a man who has played Captain Jack Sparrow, Ed Wood, Willy Wonka, and the Mad Hatter, the ability to simply exist without a role to fill is not a small thing. It is everything. What has been quietly circulating in verified European property and arts preservation circles is that Depp has been expanding this vision beyond France. Historical sources and cultural observers familiar with his movements in the European art scene have noted his genuine interest in estates across Portugal, southern Spain, and certain rural pockets of Italy and Greece. These are not flashy acquisitions designed to make headlines. They are deliberate, thoughtful investments in places that most people in his financial bracket would never even consider because they require too much patience, too much restoration work, and too much personal commitment to bring back to life. And that is precisely why they appeal to him. To understand why Johnny Depp is drawn to broken, beautiful things, you have to understand where he came from. Born in Owensboro, Kentucky in 1963, Depp grew up in a family that moved constantly. In various interviews, including a deeply personal conversation he gave to Rolling Stone magazine, he described a childhood marked by instability, a mother with mental health struggles, and a family that relocated over 20 times before he was a teenager. He dropped out of school at 15 and almost immediately found himself drifting between odd jobs and a genuine passion for music before acting found him somewhat accidentally. The point is that Depp has never had a fixed place in the world that felt truly his own. He has spent his entire life searching for roots in a life that by design kept pulling them up. This is the psychological core of what he is doing with these European estates. When you understand that context, suddenly the image of Johnny Depp walking through a derelict 16th century manor in the Portuguese countryside with his architect and a restoration specialist stops looking eccentric and starts looking deeply human. He is not collecting properties. He is collecting a sense of permanence that his childhood never gave him, and that Hollywood, with all its manufactured magic, could never truly deliver either. People who have worked with Depp on creative projects have consistently noted one particular quality about him, and that is his obsessive attention to detail when it comes to authenticity. His former collaborator and director Tim Burton has spoken in multiple interviews about how Depp always pushes for the real thing, the actual texture, the genuine material, the true feeling of a space or a character rather than the simulated version. This same instinct drives his approach to real estate. He does not want a modern villa designed to look old. He wants the actual old thing, the property with the original terracotta floors that have been walked on for 400 years, the cellar with wine racks that still carry the ghost of harvest long forgotten, the courtyard where sunlight falls in exactly the same pattern it has fallen for centuries. Verified reports from European architectural preservation organizations have noted that Depp has been in contact with various restoration experts across the continent, specialists who focus specifically on maintaining historical integrity while making centuries-old structures livable again. This is not the behavior of someone looking for an investment portfolio or a celebrity getaway. This is the behavior of someone who takes the responsibility of historical stewardship seriously. And it matters because these buildings, if left to the wrong buyer or no buyer at all, would simply continue to decay until they became rubble. There is also the artistic dimension to consider. Depp is not only an actor, he is a painter, a musician, and someone who has always expressed himself through multiple creative channels. He plays guitar at a level that earned him genuine respect from musicians like Alice Cooper and Jeff Beck, the latter of whom recorded an entire album with him in 2020. His paintings, which he has sold through limited exhibitions, reveal an interior emotional life that is complex, layered, and deeply expressive. For an artist of this nature, environment is not just a backdrop, it is a collaborator. The kind of light that falls through a window in a Provencal farmhouse at 4 in the afternoon is different from any studio light. The kind of silence that exists in a 500-year-old stone room in rural Portugal carries a particular quality that cannot be manufactured. Depp understands this intuitively in the way that only genuinely creative people do. Sources familiar with his artistic process have noted that some of his most productive creative periods have come during extended stays in his French properties. Away from the machinery of Los Angeles and the constant negotiation of public image, he finds something that functions as genuine creative freedom. The European estates he is quietly acquiring represent an expansion of this idea. He is essentially building a network of sanctuaries, places where he can arrive, exhale, pick up a brush or a guitar or a book, and simply be a human being rather than a brand. It is also worth noting the timing of all of this. The years between 2016 and 2022 were extraordinarily turbulent for Johnny Depp in ways that became very public. The legal battles, the media scrutiny, and the professional consequences that followed were all documented in real time with a level of intensity that few public figures have ever experienced. What came out of that period, particularly following the defamation trial verdict in June 2022 that the jury decided largely in his favor, was a man who emerged visibly changed, not broken. Changed, people who attended his first public appearances after the trial noted that there was something quieter about him, more deliberate, as though he had made a conscious decision about what truly mattered and what did not. The European Estate Project reads as a direct expression of that clarity. When the world spent years loudly debating who Johnny Depp was, he appears to have gone quietly about the business of deciding for himself where he wanted to belong. And the answer he arrived at was not a penthouse in New York or a guarded compound in Beverly Hills. It was ancient land with old trees and structures built by people whose names nobody remembers anymore, but whose craftsmanship has outlasted everything that was contemporary in their time. There is something profoundly philosophical about that choice, even if Depp himself would probably describe it in simpler, more personal terms. In various interviews across his career, he has consistently expressed a kind of wariness about the modern world's relationship with impermanence. He has talked about his love for objects that carry history, for music that was made when recordings were an event rather than a background activity, for stories that take time to unfold rather than demanding immediate emotional resolution. The historical European estate is the architectural embodiment of all of those values. It is a thing built to last, built with intention, built by human hands that understood they were creating something meant to outlive them. His connection to Europe itself is also not superficial. Depp has lived significant portions of his life on the continent, speaks French with genuine proficiency, according to those who have spent time with him there, and has raised his children Vanessa Paradise and their 2 children, Lily Rose and Jack, spent formative years living between France and the United States with a lifestyle that was far more European in rhythm and value than typical Hollywood celebrity existence. Lily Rose Depp, now a significant public figure in her own right, has spoken warmly in various interviews about her French upbringing and the sense of groundedness it gave her. That groundedness came from choices her father made about where and how to live even during the height of his global fame. What Depp is doing now with these historical properties is in many ways a continuation of that same philosophy carried into a new chapter of his life. He is not retreating from the world. He is curating his relationship with it on his own terms. The estates become spaces where he can invite people who genuinely matter to him, fellow musicians, artists, old friends, his children, and experience something that the manufactured environments of celebrity life almost never allow, which is real unscripted human connection within a space that carries genuine meaning. It is also impossible to separate this from Depp's well-documented love of history and literature. He is famously well-read, someone who has referenced everything from Hunter S. Thompson to Rimbaud to Kerouac in various conversations and interviews across his career. The kind of man who reads seriously also tends to develop a particular relationship with physical spaces that carry historical weight. Walking through a room where something significant happened or where generations of ordinary human life unfolded is not just aesthetically pleasing to a person like that. It is intellectually and emotionally nourishing in a way that a perfectly designed modern space simply cannot replicate. And so when you put all of these threads together, the childhood without stable roots, the artist's need for authentic environment, the musician's sensitivity to atmosphere, the reader's love of layered history, the man's hard-won clarity about what genuinely matters after years of extraordinary public turbulence, what emerges is not the eccentric celebrity story that a tabloid headline might suggest. What emerges is something far more coherent and quietly moving, a human being who has survived an enormous amount of noise and chaos and who has chosen deliberately and thoughtfully to build his remaining years around beauty, permanence, silence, and the kind of deep personal meaning that no amount of professional success can substitute for. The estates are not an escape, they are an arrival. If this quieter side of Johnny Depp's journey speaks to you, share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think a historic home can become more than a property, becoming a place where art, family, memory, and peace can grow? If you appreciate stories that look beyond headlines and focus on the human side of the artist you admire, support this video with a like and subscribe for more stories. If you have ever visited an old European village, castle, or countryside estate that stayed with you, tell us about it below. Your voice helps keep this conversation meaningful.